Good afternoon, Concordia community. It is Monday afternoon, March 23rd. I hope you're doing well. You had a wonderful weekend and you're back at classes this week. As a reminder, on Thursday, we're going to have our advisory session. A small schedule change. Grade 6 and 7 will be at 11:45 until 12:15, and then grade 8 will be at 12:15 until 12:45. This way, Ms. Bloomberg, our grade 7 and 8 counselor, can drop into both grade 7 and then to grade 8 and touch base with you guys. Anyway, today's video I think will be a little bit more serious in terms of what do I think about the coronavirus and what do I think about school moving forward in terms of not necessarily schedules related to Concordia, but how is the world going to move on? What is middle school going to look like in the future about, in regards to coronavirus? So what do I think? First, it's probably the most significant global event that we've had in my lifetime. I grew up in New York City. I remember September 11th clearly. It was a day that, obviously changed a lot of my life and the way I go about my life. But I think we're now at the point where I would struggle to find anyone whose life in some way hasn't been tangibly affected by the coronavirus and the way they behave in public, in the way they understand disease and health and public health. So I think we're now at the point where the world understands, and the world's going to be different no matter, how much we try to desire things to be the way they were. I think things are just going to look a little bit different in many different areas, school included. That said, a few things I think. One, the world has never worked together collectively to solve the same problem, which is kind of inspiring. Usually it is when we're trying to solve a problem, it's because there is an issue or an idea that another group of people supports, and there's a competition or a war or a conflict between people. In this sense, everyone in the world is trying to fight for the same thing, is trying to make sense of a new world, is trying to figure out strategies and ideas to help solve this problem. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to have some challenging weeks and months ahead probably. But I think on the other side of this, we literally have 7.8 billion people in the world right now, all trying to solve the same problem in a small way. My job is to figure out how we can be successful as a school when we can't go to school. In a very, very small way, I'm doing my job to the best of my ability to help solve a world's problem. You as students are figuring out how to learn, how to acquire new skills that will likely last your lifetime because of what you've experienced. So you're figuring it out and you're developing new and unique skills that you probably wouldn't have developed as quickly if we were face to face in our normal routines. So in that sense, you're helping to solve the world's problems. So we're all working towards the same thing, and we all desire for a similar outcome. Now, as I've been thinking about, what my job is as a principal, and where I think the world is going, I think it's twofold. I personally feel the obligation to communicate accurately, to make plans accurately with teachers, with students. And for me to be successful doing that, in my opinion, requires a lot of reading, researching, thinking, writing, conversation with other people about what I'm seeing and where I think the world is going, right? So I'm looking at my own role, and I would say in the last 6 weeks, I have spent more time reading, researching, thinking, writing things down, talking to other people than about serious things than I have really in a long, long, long time, perhaps even my entire life. So I would say in these last 6 weeks, I have done an incredible amount of learning about the world and about myself and about the world around me. And I would venture to say that you guys, both parents and students, you guys have done the same, right? You have probably learned more about the world in the last month or 6 weeks than in many other times. So if we're going to be optimistic about this, I think this has been a tremendous opportunity inside of what is, a really difficult and unfortunate situation that the world is going to have to go through as a collective, right? Now, what does that mean for middle school, in my opinion? I think it means a lot, and here's why. When we go to classes, we think about I have language arts right now, then I have science, then I have math, then I have social studies, then I have modern language, I have electives, I have PE, I have music, right? I have art, all of these various classes. And we think of them as independent of each other, right? That what I do in math doesn't really speak very much into what I do in language arts, or doesn't really speak into what I do in social studies. Now, I think that's wrong. That's the wrong approach to take. And when I think we start moving forward, I want to continue to emphasize this from a learning perspective in our middle school, and I would imagine our high school as well, is that as the world's figuring out these problems, right, we need math, we need data, we need to figure out statistics to make decisions about what's the best idea to do. Now, at the same time, if you are just simply good at math and can figure out how much you think the disease is going to spread, or if you think the disease is serious, if you think it's not serious, it's kind of irrelevant if you don't have an understanding of human nature, of society, right? So social studies is important. Um, you need an understanding of science to understand cells and viruses and bacterias and spreads and how long things stay on surfaces, right? All of these things that I had not ever learned in my life or had learned way back in high school. And, I'm a social studies and English teacher. I'm a principal. I'm really more in the humanities part of the world, but I spent a lot of time thinking about biology and science and math and statistics in recent weeks because you can't be able to solve a problem without really understanding both areas, right? So if you say, well, I'm just good at math, or math is my thing, and I don't really need language arts or social studies, I don't really think that idea is very valid because you need to be able to communicate your ideas and information. You need to be able to think about the reactions of people. I think right now what we're doing is we're using science and mathematical models to help us make decisions about human beings. And should people stay inside? Should people wear masks? How do we prevent the disease from spreading? Why have certain countries like Vietnam been very successful thus far in combating an infiltration of the virus, right? So we have to think about both math and humanities at the same time. So, as we get back, and I want to continue to think about this in the coming weeks, all subjects are super important because as I'm learning, you can't have an understanding of one thing and not really account for or think about some of the other subjects in life, right? So as I think about how to lead our middle school, I want to think about how we can incorporate some more of that thinking across different subject areas because as you see, all subjects are important and they all kind of speak to each other in different ways, right? It's wonderful if you're really good at math, but I'd rather you be pretty good with a strong understanding across many different subjects and disciplines than just be good at one thing and not account for the others. So, something to think about a little bit more from an educational perspective. I think we're going to see significant changes in the way we approach everything from world travel to living in different countries to going to school. I think we're going to see some significant changes in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, that may seem a little bit far out in front of us, but um, as society teaches us from moments of struggle, from challenges that humanity faces, what you see on the other side is tremendous growth and development. So, key points: be optimistic, right? Think about where the world is going to be in 5 or 10 years, and I can tell you it's going to be a better place, right? It might be a struggle in the next couple of months, next 6 months even. But I think on the other side of this, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic and a lot of faith that we have to place in humanity. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.